On a Tuesday, it was one of those misleadingly clear, snowy mornings when you expect nothing more than back-to-back meetings and, if you're lucky, a sandwich that hasn't been microwaved into rubber. I entered Larkwell and Company the way I always had. Same ID card. Same elevator, even though it creaked a little. Everything seemed familiar, until it didn't. Even the receptionist on the 10th floor gave me her usual reticent nod. My name is Ever Hale, and yes, my wife, Miranda Vale, is the CEO of Larkwell and Company. You read that right. I used to share a mortgage with my supervisor. It was 9:02 a.m. when Miranda's executive assistant sent out the calendar notification. Subject, Executive Office, Urgent Talk. I assumed it was a project issue. Possibly a client. Maybe, if I was being overly optimistic, it was finally time for the promotion conversation I'd been bringing up at every quarterly review for the past 3 years. But I knew. I knew something was different the moment I opened her door. There, she sat, behind her immaculate glass desk, wearing a navy coat with silver trim I'd never seen before, like she had picked out armor. She didn't look up, just tapped a printed email with her manicured nail and said, coldly, clinically, Steele, I don't think this is incompetent, unprofessional, or disloyal. I glanced at the document. It was an internal memo about my interview with Dalton Nexus. Last Thursday. Yes, I told Miranda I had a dentist appointment, and technically I did. Just not at a dentist's office. I opened my mouth to explain. She interrupted me. Don't worry about it. Security would escort me out. I could collect my personal items, but my badge and building access, revoked. Instantly. No conversation. She slid my badge across the desk like it was evidence in a trial. It wasn't just a firing, it was a premeditated dismissal. And you know what hurt the most? Not being fired by my own wife, but realizing, in that fluorescent, sterile moment, that I had stopped being her equal years ago, back when we were in the trenches together. Late-night ramen dinners at our desks, brainstorming campaigns. We were Hale and Vale, a team, our own agency, and I loved that version of us. But Miranda rose faster. The board saw her quicker. I was proud of her. I still am. But slowly, things shifted. I stopped getting CC'd on emails. Client dinners happened without me. Strategic planning meetings became closed door. And when promotions were handed out, I got the same excuse. We don't want it to look like we're giving you special treatment. Even though I was the one who brought in the RTOR account. After 3 months of cold calls and coffee dates, I saved Stratos Bank $1 million solo. But none of that mattered, because in Miranda's story, I had become the conflict of interest. She once told me she couldn't approve my raise because it would look bad. I asked her if I was supposed to disappear. She said nothing. Started calling me Everett in meetings. Not my husband, not strategy lead. Everett Hale, a name that sounded like a temp, but I stayed. Told myself I was being understanding, making sacrifices, doing it for us, until I looked back and realized I had been quietly erased. 3 years of raise requests, deleted PDFs I'd prepared, backed with client income, performance graphs, market forecasts, all ignored. Budgets are tight. We're focusing on infrastructure. You're appreciated. Even this quarter it hadn't happened yet, but newer hires, people I trained, were getting better titles, bigger bonuses. Last review? The private parking space I was promised? Gone. Handed to someone else. I said nothing. Until one night, after yet another invisible contributions conversation, I launched my laptop and updated my resume for the first time in 6 years, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. 2 weeks later, Reed Dalton called. He'd been following my work for a while. Said he wanted someone to help build his in-house marketing department from scratch. I told Miranda I had another dentist appointment. Put on a tie, packed floss, just in case. The interview went well. Reed showed me samples of my public work and said, You've been the ghost behind Larkwell's wins, haven't you? He laughed. Then he said something that stuck. You're polite, and I respect that, but I can see your fingerprints all over their growth. He ended the meeting with a handshake and said, Next time, I hope we're meeting as colleagues. Then, Tuesday happened. Whether it was HR, a leaked email, or just Miranda's instinct, she found out and didn't ask a single question. Not, Are you unhappy? Can we talk? Why didn't you tell me? Just judgment, just exile, just clinical precision. But what she didn't know was that I hadn't done that interview to hurt her. I didn't need her approval anymore. I needed space to breathe, to be seen not as her spouse, but as a strategist, a professional. I opened my laptop. Page 4 of the last raise proposal I submitted. It said Everett Hale would increase revenue by 20% with a raise. That's $3.2 million. Reality? It was $3.6 million 8 months ago. I overdelivered on Artur, on Crestline, and I was fired. But Reed? He wasn't just offering me a position. He wanted me to build the entire department, to guide the vision, not just carry it out. I clicked reply. Subject: Thursday meeting confirmed. Hi Reed, Thursday works. Looking forward to it. Miranda. Called it betrayal, but I sat back in my chair and looked at my reflection on the laptop screen. I call it self-selection. And if that makes me the antagonist in her boardroom, so be it. I'd rather be the villain in her story than a ghost in mine. It's strange what you remember when everything falls apart. Not the campaigns, not the meetings, not the all-nighters. No, I remembered the cardboard box, the one I always joked about using when we moved floors. Turns out, it had a darker purpose. I packed it slowly, a framed photo, a mug Miranda once gave me, favorite hiker, a few notebooks, my favorite blue pen, and a lion-shaped paperweight from a retreat. Nobody said a word. Nobody stopped me, except Leah from UX. She slipped me a sticky note. You didn't deserve this. I folded it gently and tucked it into the mug. Then I walked out. Didn't shake, didn't cry. I helped design that office, nodded to no one in particular, and left. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was knowing my wife had made the call. But something broke off inside me. And something else started. The parking lot was quiet. My phone buzzed. Reed. Thursday? I replied,